to The Private Record. Welcome back to The Private Record. If you are a usual listener, welcome to The Private Record for the first time. If this is the first episode you've ever listened to, I'm very happy to have you. Today, we have a very special guest. Her name is Kelsey. She went through something that I can only describe as, well, let's see. Of the things I've heard, of the stories I've heard of people going through things physically that were dire or painful or excruciating, whatever word you want to use, I don't know if I've ever had such like a physical reaction to someone telling me what they went through. I don't want to give too much away. The title of the episode, I'm sure you can glean what the basic parts of the story are, but the short version of the story is she was pregnant, going through birth, and had to have an emergency C-section, and the anesthetic didn't work. None of it worked. She went through all of it awake and felt every second of it. Can't even believe it. Can't even imagine it, but I don't have to. Kelsey went through it and tells us all about it, and the story is bing bong bonkers. I can't believe it. Kelsey, thank you for coming on the show and telling the story. I feel like it's a universal fear going through the surgery and the anesthetic doesn't work. You hear stories like that. Sometimes people actually go under and they can feel everything but can't move. It's like the ultimate nightmare. This is kind of an even worse nightmare. She was totally awake, looking at all of this fucking horror show going on, feeling every little detail. It's terrible. It's crazy. It's crazy. Don't know what else to say, so I'm not going to say anything else. If you want to be a guest on the show, go to theprivaterecord.com and submit yourself as a potential guest. Follow us on all socials, TikTok, Instagram, at The Private Record. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, at The Private Record. Like every video, comment on every video, share every video with your friends. We love it when you share episodes with people. It makes me happy, makes the world a better place. It's the least you could do. You want to make the world a better place? This is a good way to do it. Comment. Let me know what you think of this episode about Kelsey and her crazy story. I definitely want to know what you all think. Enjoy the episode. Enjoy Kelsey's story about going through the most immense pain I've ever even fucking thought of, let alone come close to experiencing. Thank you. Kelsey, welcome to The Private Record. Thank you for coming on the show. We're happy to have you. Excited to hear your story, although it sounds, I'll let you, why don't you give us the headline of your story before we even get into it? Yeah.
The headline, I would say, would be the birthing story from hell.
That sounds like something they're either going to want to hear it and hear every detail of it, or that just made them run away from whatever they're listening on or watching on. But not me. I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. Let's do it. Start wherever you want. And it's your story, however you want to tell it.
Awesome. Yeah. So a little backstory.
Mm-hmm.
2016, I am pregnant with my first child. That was fall, late 2016. I am due June 12th, 2017.
Okay.
So everything's going really smooth. The pregnancy is fairly easy aside from the few discomforts. I get a little bit of sciatic nerve pain, a little bit of discomfort there. Nausea isn't too bad. It's a relatively healthy pregnancy. And it's my first, so I have no prior experience with it.
Right. Nothing to compare it to. Yeah.
To compare it to. So going in for all the routine tests, everything was fairly normal. The only thing that was a bit of an issue was I tested positive for a bacteria called Group B strep. It's a common thing they test for in pregnancy. I guess it's just a bacteria that lives in your gut, and
it's something you have just throughout your life, and you don't have to know about it because it's normal. And then when you're having a child, and what is the potential, like, why do they specifically test for it? Can it affect the child or pre-birth or after? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It could affect during the birthing process.
Oh, okay.
if your water breaks, that bacteria then can travel up to the baby, and we don't want that because then we're running into major problems.
Got it.
Um, so my team told me that if my water were to break, I would have to call the hospital right away, and they would have to induce my labor and get me on a round of IV antibiotics.
Right.
Um, and that was all fine and well. And they said, you know what, the chances of that happening, very low. That dramatic water break that you always see in the movies or shows, that never happens.
Right.
So you'll be in the clear. You'll likely be in labor long before your water breaks. So I had that in the back of my mind. And I was fairly open to a lot of the different scenarios that could play out during a birth.
Right.
I'm a fairly open person in general, so as long as baby's healthy,
Yeah.
I'm healthy, it's all good. Do what you will. So I just tried to play out all the scenarios in my head, trying to be hyper vigilant and on top of everything.
Which is not, I don't have to tell you this now because I kind of know where it's going, but also just in general. And I think at least, especially with something like pregnancy, from what I've been told, everything everyone plans on or thinks ahead on, all of the things that you could possibly cover, people do it and something happens that they didn't expect. And it's almost always the case. And I'm assuming that's what's going on with you shortly in this story. Yeah. Okay.
So here I am thinking, oh, I'll be so open. Everything's okay. I've had friends who had babies previously, and they had a very rigid plan. They wanted things to go exactly how they wanted them to go, and of course, it doesn't. It
Right.
very rarely does. I trusted my doctor, still to this day, even after everything. He was amazing, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
He was he was very calming and reassuring in a very strange robotic way, uh, as doctors can be sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's good to have a doctor that's just like rote and is just like, you don't want like an emotional doctor, especially for pregnancy, for birth. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, some women like that, but that's not me.
Right.
I'm all business, right? Um, so yeah, I wake up June 4th. So I'm about 38 weeks pregnant at this point. I wake up in the morning, I walk to the bathroom, and exactly what they said wouldn't happen happens. I have that dramatic
Oh,
water,
wow.
and it's like, oh great, it's time to grab the bags and head over to the hospital.
Hmm.
So me and my husband at the time, I've since remarried and have other children,
Oh,
and we'll get
okay.
it. But um, yeah, we head down. Everything's routine. They get me all prepped for labor, and then they induce me like they said they would. I believe they inject you with oxytocin
Hmm.
to get contractions started. They want this process to kind of go as quickly as possible.
Right.
Um, just to make sure that we're not transferring that bacteria to the baby. So I'm on drip antibiotics. We're good to go. Labor's progressing, and it's progressing pretty quickly with the induction. Um, the pain's getting really intense as contractions are kind of shortening and shortening within the time between them.
Right.
And at this point, am thinking, oh, you know, I did the prenatal classes. I can kind of just um, practice what I learned in there and try to manage pain that way. That wasn't really working that well. the,
Mm.
the pain gets so intense during these bigger contractions that I mean, I kind of started to freak out.
Okay.
Uh,
Did you
so I'm
have, I'm sorry, but did they,
no,
the epidural situation, was that an option for you? Did you get that? Did you not get that?
it was an option, and I was super open to that option.
Okay.
Before that, I wanted to try other means of pain management.
Got it.
So they actually, at one point, I'm on an exercise ball, I'm in a shower, I'm like trying to
Mm.
do all of the movements, I'm pacing all over the delivery room. Um, Nothing's really working. They give me nitrous oxide, which
Whoa, I wish I was there. Nitrous.
I
Yeah.
hate it.
Oh, okay.
I
Never mind. Yeah. Yeah.
I think just in that situation, I wanted to feel like I was kind of somewhat in control.
Oh, yeah. Then that was the wrong thing for you. Yeah. 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 Totally. Why would they? That's crazy. Just like, okay, pace. Here's this exercise ball. That's not working. Take some nitrous. You're just like, oh my God, what a leap. Okay.
Such a leap. It was so. I mean, uh, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But any other situation, I would have been very happy to have the nitrous, but not in there.
Sure.
Not
I get that. I totally get that. You want to have a sense, or at least a semblance of a sense of either control or being present. Yeah.
totally. It
Yeah.
was it wasn't the right thing. So at that point, that's when I had requested the epidural.
Mhm.
Thankfully, I didn't have to wait too long for it. The anesthesiologist had just come in. So I got the epidural within 10 minutes of its request.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So he comes in, places the epidural, everything's great. I'm happy, I'm calm. My partner's doing well. We're ready to start pushing.
Mhm.
Um, my doctor comes in and they're having some problems reading my baby's monitor. I guess it keeps cutting out,
Hmm.
and they can't find her heart rate. Like it keeps cutting out. It's like she's moving, or my position is wrong. They can't really figure it out. So there was a lot of manipulation with that monitoring,
Mm.
and the doctor came in and he kind of showed them, where to place it, and it still wasn't reading. By that point, I am fully dilated. I'm ready to start.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Um, it's everything's great. Like I can feel the contractions still, but they're not intense pain. So it's
Mhm.
totally manageable. I'm pushing, and her heart rate, my daughter's heart rate, keeps dropping with every push.
Okay.
Um, so that's when my doctor told me that there was going to be a possibility of me having to go to the ER for an emergency C-section.
And now I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Crazy.
what do you know why that might happen? That the heart rate situation with your daughter? Like, is there a reason that you knew of, or is that like how common is that? Like, tell us what that it means or whatever, as far as you know.
So, so my doctor, being fairly robotic, I mean, he didn't he didn't really answer. He answered questions kind of directly, but not a drawn out explanation. Like he's just trying to make sure he's delivering the baby safely.
Right.
Of course,
Hello, Kelsey. Now we must check your daughter's heart rate. You're just like, are you a robot? Yeah.
going on. But no, he. I found out after why that was the case. Um, due to checking my records,
Right.
it was her head was not aligned with the birth canal, so she was in fetal
Um,
distress.
oh, okay. Got it.
Push every contraction, she's basically being pushed into a wall, and she can't get out.
Oh, God, that's scary. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, and yeah, it's terrifying to think about now, and I'm actually happy that I wasn't privy to that information
I was just
before.
gonna say, no wonder they didn't tell you. Why would they tell you that? I mean, that is actually that makes me think your doctor made a great decision in that
He's
instance. Yeah.
he was great. Um, so yeah, I said, "Wheel me down. Let's get her done."
Yeah, sure.
Uh, the priority at this point is making sure she's out safely.
Mhm.
Up until this point, I would say I'd been laboring for about 12 hours. So it doesn't like that comparatively, it's not that long of a
Yeah.
of a
Yeah,
some
I have a friend who was in labor, like, for actually almost 6 days or something. It's just like, what do you mean? I can't even conceive I have no concept of what that might be like, you know? So
that's
yeah, yeah.
for sure. So yeah, they wheel me down. At this point, the epidural is still in place. Um Once I get into the OR, they take that epidural and they just plug me into the anesthetic um for the. So It's not general anesthetic. I'm awake. I'm aware.
They have an anesthetic specifically for C-sections. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's gonna be a different type
Okay.
of anesthetic that they would then pump through the catheter through the epidural.
Got it.
Um,
Got it.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah. I'm not sure if it's the same or a different grade or whatever is the case, but when they plugged me in to this anesthetic, I'm aware of what's going on. They test me, they check my freezing, they take towel clamps, and they like towel clamps are these super super sharp little instruments, and they start pinching me to see if I can feel,
Mm.
and I don't. So they're ready. They've prepped me for surgery. Um, they cut me open, and as soon as that scalpel hits my skin and slices me open, they then pull me apart, and I start laughing hysterically because I could not fathom the pain that I was in.
Holy shit.
I lost my mind. It was I've never experienced anything like that. I couldn't, and I was trying to process this happening to me, and I'm like, this can't be normal.
Right.
This can't feels like.
Yeah.
Um, Having had friends with previous C-sections, some of them said it's smooth, some of them said, you can feel pressure and pulling and that sort of thing. And I'm like, this is so far beyond that.
Yeah,
So
you would have heard stories that were similar enough to what you're experiencing to the point you would have thought, okay, I guess this is what this is like. It is terrible, like I've heard. But yeah, no, yeah.
yeah. So I think it was because my partner is right by my side at this time, and he's thinking like, what the hell is going on? This is not normal. At first he was
Mhm.
kind of, I'm laughing, so like he kind of starts laughing, and then I think he overhears the doctor say, "Oh, this isn't good."
Oh
Um,
God, that is not what you want a doctor to that's not what you want to hear a doctor saying while you're giving birth, A, but B, when you are feeling immense pain during birth.
yeah, so I feel everything. This laughter basically turns to like shrieks of terror.
Oh,
I am hysterical at this point. And they're just trying to talk to me and say, "Hey, everything's going to be okay. Your baby's coming. Everything's great." There's music playing in the background as well. Oftentimes in the OR, depending on who the doctor is and who the team is, they have music playing in the background. Um, so when everything is going great, that's fine. That's all good. It
right.
helps them concentrate. But I'm present. I'm awake. I'm being sliced open. I can feel it. And Lincoln Park's "In the End" is playing
Oh,
in the.
come on with that fucking choice. Come on. You can't, you should have to get a signed release form that to be okay. Is the patient okay with listening to fucking Linkin Park? Just a
Link-
quick anecdote. I had corrective sinus surgery. And when I went in, what you just said about how they play music, I was reminded of the fact that, so for whatever reason, when they put me under completely during my surgery, and uh, for whatever reason, the drug kicked in extremely slowly. So while they're wheeling me in, they gave me the IV. It started to get into my body. I started feeling it, and I started feeling like really, in retrospect, unfortunately, feeling really, really good. Uh, I say unfortunately because I remember the feeling as quite literally by far the best I've ever felt in my entire life. And I remember it distinctly. And I'm being rolled into the actual operating room, and I'm starting to feel better and better and better. And as the doors open, I hear blasting loudly Queen, and it was Fat Bottom Girls. And I was just like, this is the greatest song in the world. I mean, I like that song, but at the moment, it was like, I feel the best I've ever felt. This is the greatest song I've ever heard in my life. This is the greatest moment of my life. As I'm about to get my fucking face ripped open to correct my sinuses. But Fat Bottom Girls is at least like a better track
it's
than
jam.
anything by Linkin Park.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
I was already not a big fan of Linkin Park, and now this stupid song is forever stuck in my subconscious.
you should be able to sue for that. That is a fucking travesty.
Yeah,
Wow.
sorry to all the people who love Linkin Park, but
Yeah,
that was a
sorry to all of you, but yeah, no offense.
yeah, yeah. So that was, I mean, at this point, I'm in so much agony that it just feels like a dream sequence. Like,
Yeah.
not even aware of where you are. Um, I was told by my husband at the time that I blacked out for about, he said 5 minutes or so.
Whoa.
Yeah. So he's not sure if they gave me anything to kind of put me out. Um, and I mean, one of the reasons why, uh, I mean, they're not tending to me feeling what I'm feeling is because they just have to get that baby out of there as soon as they can.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, they're not like fixing your leg. There's something
so
happening in you that needs to be done, and that's why this is all happening in the first place. Yeah.
I'm open. Like
Right.
they can't flip me over to check my catheter or anything like that. So
Yeah. Jeez.
I'm
Eesh.
not really sure what the blackout was all about. It was either from the intense pain or they gave me something. But I came to obviously like a few minutes later,
Mm.
and I'm still just being operated on and can feel everything. And I am crying. I am shrieking. I'm saying the weirdest shit. Um,
I bet.
I've, I've lost it. Like I've just completely lost it. So she's finally out. They
Okay.
finally out. She gets taken over to get her APGAR scores, just to make sure she's healthy. She's looking good. She was in fetal distress, so it was, you know, just
Yeah.
making sure she was okay. And she was perfectly healthy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
perfectly healthy. I am out of it. Like they're like, look at your baby, look at your baby. I look over, I am catatonic.
Mm.
I can't even process what's happening. By the time they are doing her tests, they're sewing me up, and I'm screaming and just begging them to stop. Like there's absolutely zero freezing even in the top layers of my skin anymore. Like
What
it's
the
just yeah,
fuck?
yeah. And I mean, with C-sections, I mean they kind of have to put you back together, like
Yeah.
so I am just feeling everything. Everything.
Oh my God. Can you like, I know it's not possible because to explain something that traumatic in
Mhm.
physically, it, you have to, people have to have a frame of reference to be able to even understand. And I don't think, I certainly don't. Most people must not. So, but is there a way that you've learned to be able to like, I'm wondering, because I think one of the reasons I was so interested to speak about this with you was because one, I think a universal fear for almost everyone that has thought about this is needing some kind of surgery
Mhm.
and knowing it's going to be painful and the anesthesia does not work or the
Yeah.
anesthetic does not work. And the major fear is you get put under and you can feel everything but you can't even scream or let somebody know. But in your case, you are able to scream and let people know, but it doesn't matter because like you said, they can't turn you over, they can't check, they can't stop everything. It's all happening. So in you, there's the added element of not only what was the pain like for you, but it's like you're giving birth to your first child, which ultimately if you could step out of that moment for a second and be asked, do you want us to keep going or get rid of all this and make it all go away? You would say, no, keep fucking going. This is my
Yeah.
daughter I care more about this than anything. So it's
So
like
true.
the most mega moment imaginable, both
Yeah.
emotionally, but also now physically. So I guess what I'm asking is like, can you describe or is it indescribable, the actual moment to moment pain?
Indescribable for sure.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm lapsing in and out of sanity at that point of, they've got her out, they're putting me back together. I kept thinking, like, this must be, and this is such a morbid, horrible thought, but this is where my mind goes. This is what it's like to get murdered. Like, you know what I
Oh
mean?
my God. Yeah, no,
Like,
I totally get it. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
stabbed, and it's just it was just like it was frightening. And I just remember thinking that, and thinking like, oh, these poor people, all of these, oh, I can't believe that's happened. I can't believe this has happened to people before.
Wow.
So
I
yeah, it
mean,
was
that's actually really interesting. I mean, that it makes sense that your mind went there, but to have that thought in the middle of the experience, it kind of speaks to like the way your mind actually works. You know what I mean? You must be a very empathetic kind of person because that that
yeah,
that's so insert. It's like it's unimaginable, obviously, to me or any. I'm sure most people, almost everyone listening, but that yeah, I mean that is minus, obviously the reason the doctors were doing any of it in the first place. What's
mm,
physically happening to your body from the outside is like they're taking sharp instruments and cutting you open, and then they're ripping you open and putting their hands inside you and futzing around. It's like, I mean, that is without the baby element, what they're doing
yeah,
to you is the most barbaric, fucked up thing you could ever do to somebody. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think it was just my brain of trying to process the situation, however I could do that. And
totally. Yeah.
yeah, I mean the aftermath after I'm all sewed up. Sorry,
Hmm.
they place my baby on my chest.
Mm,
She's so healthy. And then I'm just in that moment. I am just enthralled with her.
hmm.
She is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I'm on cloud nine.
Hmm.
And I basically forget everything um, until I'm trying to like reprocess it later when I'm back in the recovery room. I'm like, that was not how that was supposed to go.
Understatement of the fucking century, but yes.
Yeah, it was off there, right?
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah, I mean, and a number of things. I mean, during the recovery, I had the epidural. I had everything taped. I was hooked up to tubes. I was hooked up to many different things. I got an allergic reaction to the glue that they used on the tape.
Oh God.
So my entire back had this massive rash on it.
Oh my God.
Was all scabbed and rashy, and looked horrible. They gave me some blood thinners as well, injectable. So I was bruised at all of those injection sites. So I looked like I had been in a car wreck, and I felt
Right.
like that too.
Right.
Um, but I mean, I just had a baby. I'm cloud nine. I'm doing great in
Right.
the
Right. Right.
5 days,
Wow.
and
So wait, I'm sorry. You said you were in the hospital for 5 days just recovering from the
recovered.
physical trauma, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the next day, my doctor comes in, and I think the first phrase out of my mouth was, "What happened to me down there?" And he's
Right.
like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's not how that was supposed to go. The freezing, clearly you had an issue with it. It didn't take right away." And I was able to get some more information afterwards. When you have an epidural in place, they use a catheter that isn't as long as like a spinal tap or if it was a planned C-section, the needle, the catheter, it would have been much longer. So
Oh.
the freezing would have been more, I guess. And so I've talked to several people before. They never said, that was a possibility of that happening or anything. It wasn't until after this happened. Now all of these stories are coming out of the woodwork, and I hear women who've had this experience before in the exact circumstance, with the small catheter.
Is
So
is it is is it common, or is it just it happens sometimes, and because that's true, people who it happened to are obviously gonna talk about it. So it almost seems because of
yeah,
the availability heuristic or whatever, it's like it seems more common. Like, did your doctor tell you how frequent that even happens?
no, no, they
Yeah.
didn't, and I don't think it happens. I don't think
Yeah.
it's that common.
Right.
Must not be. Um,
Yeah.
but Yeah, of course. Murphy's Law, right? You
Right.
think you're gonna
Yeah.
everything, and then surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Surprise indeed.
Yeah,
So I guess you to go back just for a second, you said when they put your daughter on your chest,
yeah,
sort of everything else sort of faded away, and it was just you in that moment, which is incredible actually, and it's kind of a testament to how our brains work.
yeah,
It's like you went through the worst thing imaginable, but it was all for this, and now you're having this moment. And I'm curious, did you might not remember, but did the pain that you were certainly in that moment still, did that sort of kind of fade as well, just in that moment?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I was not. I couldn't remember feeling any pain at that point once she's in my arms.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I mean, I'd do it all over again because,
Of
I've
course.
got this whole child, and I have done it again. I've had 2 other C-sections since.
Actually,
So,
yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. So,
mm,
because of the actual experience you had, were the was the next pregnancy, what was that C-section planned? First of all, I guess is the question.
absolutely. Yeah. I was not going to risk that happening again.
Right.
So scheduled C-section, I knew exactly when I was gonna be going in. My doctor, who performed my first C-section, he had retired, so I had to find a new I had to find a new
Mm.
surgeon.
After
So
with you, he was like, I'm fucking done. I'm never doing this shit again. This is too much for me."
yeah, exactly. It's like saying I've got this lady screaming and laughing maniacally during surgery while thinking in the background. Um,
Yeah. I would
yeah,
retire too, honestly. If I had to go through that, there's no fucking way I would return to work the next day.
yeah, no kidding. No, he was great. But so yeah, I was scheduled for my last other 2. I have 3 children and all C-sections, 2 planned.
Right. And was obviously you already answered this, it was planned, but I'm curious if because of sometimes it's like there's the way we think about something and remember something, and we can then place it logically and reasonably understand why it happened, how it happened, what led to it. You're leading up to the next birth. It's going to be a C-section. Obviously, it's planned, different story, but
Yeah,
that still happened. So
yeah.
is it in your mind? Like, are you not afraid, like rationally, but is there some part of you? Because I'm imagining myself in as much as I possibly can leading up to that. I would just think, because of the trauma of the first experience, I would think, well, fucking something's gonna happen again, something's gonna happen again, and I would fuck me up. Well, were you at all like, what was going on for you in the lead up to the second one?
Yeah, so, 2017 was my first, 2020 March 2020, actually, beginning of the pandemic was my
Wow.
second,
Yeah.
which was other that was a whole other experience. So there was those anxieties attached, uh, to that birth as well. But since between those C-sections, I had gone to therapy, I had done trauma counseling. There was a long time after the first C-section where I would wake up from these PTSD nightmares. I'd be lying on the OR table. No one's in the room. It's just silence. And then the light turns on. And I would wake up crying, and like my heart would be pounding out of my chest. So I'm like, okay, I've got to deal with this. I've got to go get some therapy and get that sorted out before I plan on having any other children.
Whoa. So,
Uh,
and this was like a recurring nightmare, and that specifically would happen numerous times.
yeah, that actually happened the first few times it was in the hospital, while I
Mhm.
was recovering, of course.
Yeah.
And then it happened several other times afterwards when I was back at home with my child. So I actually ended up going to get EMDR therapy. Are you familiar with that one?
You know what's weird? Literally 2 or 3 days ago, someone mentioned that to me, that they were doing that. I asked
Yeah.
what it was, and I already fucking forgot. So can you please explain what that is?
Yeah, it's eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So there's several ways you can do it. Um, I did mine with tapping. So you think of your traumatic event, you process it, you kind of gauge your emotional reaction when you're thinking of that memory, and then you focus on something else. So I would tap. I would make like a pattern tap on my shoulders when I was trying to process it and think about it. And I was like, this can't be. I'm like, this can't be a thing. Like this a little bit hokey. I don't know. This it seems strange. It worked like a hot damn. Like those dreams stopped.
Wow.
And even today, like I think about it and I can just look back and kind of laugh at it and
Right.
think, wow, that was a crazy experience. So
Yeah.
obviously it did me some good. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've been to therapy and uh processed it as much as I could with several other means of creative writing, that sort of
Hmm.
thing, writing about it, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, good. I mean, that
yeah,
is the fact that you did it, you know, pregnancy and then obviously birth and
yeah,
C-sections two more times after that sort of speaks to at least an ability on your part to somehow get past it. You know, again, and I think men do this, some men do this thoughtfully, some men do this sort of brazenly, but no matter how we do it badly because there's no way to imagine what any of that is like. Like to imagine for a man what it's like to get pregnant at all is not possible. And then
right,
to imagine the experience of birth is beyond not possible. But what I can say is if I went through the part that you went through, I'm pretty sure the prospect of ever putting myself in a position to have that maybe happen again, I would be
hmm
way too fucking scared to even consider it,
yeah,
you know? But so I don't know. I mean, there's also like a brave element with the way you know you lived past it and continued your life the way that you know you wanted to. It's just honestly, when you were describing it, I was just like, I. It was like I don't know how to explain it. There was something even physical for me going. It's just so fucking visceral and weirdly imaginable that it's horrifying. It's impossible to wrap one's mind around. And so you're in the hospital for 5 days.
yeah.
I think one thing that I've just because friends that I have that have had C sections, one thing I didn't know or think about again because I'm a man. It's like what when you're. It's not just like 5 days you go home, everything's better. Like it's a whole process after a C section, right? Of like becoming your body, getting your body back in a way, and standing up and walking around, and how from the moment it happened or you left the hospital, like when are you back to somewhat normal physically?
It took a while. I did recover physically fairly quickly. I would say at the 6 week check, the postpartum check, I'm good to go. Like
Wow.
I'm fine. I can exercise again. I can lift what I used to lift. And yeah, physically I'm okay. I'm all good. So yeah, about 6 weeks, and that's pretty standard. That's pretty typical.
Wow. Well, good for
Yeah,
you. Nothing else typical about this story, but I'm glad that that part was.
uh, make those physical and mental sacrifices for sure. When
Yeah.
you're kids, so that was my. I was off to the races with the first one.
Yeah, that was your introduction to sacrifice for children. So yeah, after that though, I think any sacrifice thereafter it probably seems like a fucking cakewalk.
Yeah, it's been a joy ever since. So
Well, good. You deserve it after what you went through. Wow. Well, Kelsey, thank you for wanting to come on the show. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing this story. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of it, even if just for the holy shit factor. I think this is worth watching or listening to. So, thank you very much. If there's anything else, feel free to say it now. Otherwise, thank you, and we'll let you know when the episode's going to come out.
that's awesome. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks again, Kelsey. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, Matt.
Bye.
Bye.